Hi, David.
Hey, Zane. Good to actually be here.
Yes. This is the first time we've been together since, like, what's that, week 2? Week 3?
Was it week 3? Oh, yeah.
The Chargers? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Feels good.
It does.
Well, we're coming right in after the game. So
Yes.
It feels all right, but definitely feels good to be back.
Yes. Thankfully, we have some wireless mics that we're actually able to talk with each other in person now. I was actually at the Browns game this morning,
Yes.
and that sucked.
Yeah.
The game sucked. The weather sucked. Everything sucked, honestly. The Chiefs ended up winning, and I don't think I've ever left a football game. I don't think I've actually left a sporting event so early in my life, because usually I always stay till the very end. But knowing that, like, I was close to you, and we had kind of planned this out to where we would, like, come here and watch the game, like the Steelers game together, I was like, yeah, this game isn't going very well. I'm just going to leave. And so I think I left with like 12 minutes left in the third quarter, and I really didn't miss much. So
no, there was no redeeming quality.
no, it was pretty awful. And the weather was pretty bad too. So it just made it even easier to say, okay, I'm going to get out of the freezing rain and, go see David and, watch the game. And I mean, it was, like you said kind of just a second ago, like it was not very good.
The first half was fun.
Yeah, it was.
Then I think the wheels just came right off.
Yeah. And honestly, this game.
You did. I mean, you almost perfectly predicted.
This game, it turned out exactly kind of how I thought this one would. And I almost got the score exactly right too. I think the Steelers scored three too many points. I think I said 27-10, I think was my score prediction.
I honestly feel like that's right. That's what you said.
Yeah. So, I mean, the game started, it was close. It was close in the first half. What was the score at halftime?
13.
13? Yeah. So we were in it.
We were.
But then at the end of the game, you just sputter out. And then exactly what happened at the end, they closed it out with Saquon. They closed it out with their legs. And that's how they've won games all season long. And they just did it again. And there was no difference in the way that the Eagles operated necessarily. And we just couldn't figure out how to stop it.
Yeah. I think overall, we talked about this before we started, but doing it so soon after the game, it's like we got a lot of emotions and also like trying to keep level-headed. But I think that we were handicapped at this game by our coaching. There's a lot of instances that to me seemed like that just doesn't look like a few plays that happened where I'm like, oh, is that a well-coached team? Versus like what the Eagles are doing. And then also just some horrible game time decisions that, I mean, I think genuinely do almost basically seal the deal of the game.
Yeah. Do you want to just like walk through the game, like, as it kind of happened, and then, we can kind of just go through things. So beginning of the game, we get the ball to start. We go 3 and outs.
Yeah.
And then we give up a couple of like really long plays. We hold them to a field goal. And so it's like, okay, we're kind of feeling like things worked out because we didn't give up a touchdown.
Hold them to a field goal on that drive was a win.
Yes.
That was.
But then you come right back out and you go 3 and out again. Yeah. And it kind of just feels like the Kenny Pickett era. Like, we can't move the ball. And like the other team, maybe our defense is like playing well, but it doesn't matter when we're not moving the ball. And I don't know if it was necessarily good defense. I don't know what the deal was with those 3 and outs, but nothing was there. I want to say it was maybe a little bit of good defense on the Eagles' part, but there was no creativity in trying to get around that when you're in like 2nd and 3rd and long, I feel like.
Right. And nothing really looked like it was working. Like there didn't seem like there was anybody wide open, that Russ was missing. And we talked about this a lot. It seemed like every 3rd down, they bring 4 guys and they get there every time. And so it was just very disheartening to see our offense completely sputter. Besides like the last 5 minutes of the first half and continuing into the second half. And I think before the drive that kind of like got us in the end zone, we had like -8 passing yards or like something wild, which is just, I don't know how you do that for a whole half and come away with a win. But yeah, it looked really rough besides the turnovers.
Well, and that was honestly what kept them in the game. Yeah. And if we look at this holistically, if those 2 things don't happen, which I think you could maybe chalk those up as kind of some fluke turnovers, like Jalen Hurts fumbling and then Cooper DeJean fumbling.
Oh, yeah.
Like if those 2 things don't happen, like
you get blown out.
Absolutely. So the game is probably not even as close as it was. And even at the end of the game, like they have a 7-minute drive and they're in the red zone, but they don't need to score there. They just need to finish the game.
Yeah.
So if they do end up, chalking off a long run like that, then that's like a 21, 24 point game. And you're coming out of this like, oh my gosh, like we got our butts handed to us.
Right.
So those early turnovers, they kept us in the game, but we didn't capitalize. Yep. We had the ball at the 40, I think, on the first one. Did we go 3 and out on that one too?
The first, I think we got 3. I think we got, or no. Was it the second one that we got 3 points?
Look at the game cast.
Okay.
Because I want to say, yeah, I don't think.
All right, so punt.
I think combined we got 3 points.
So yeah, the Eagles first fumble, and then we punt, and then we got a field goal. Wait, but we got the field goal off of the. It says Eagles fumble, Steelers punt, Steelers field goal.
So we only got 3 points out of those 2 fumbles.
Yeah. Yes, and
how long was the field goal? Was that like a 40-some yarder?
It was
or was that the shorter one? I think that was the shorter one.
I think it was a shorter one because the penalty is what got us.
Right. Yes, you're right. Yeah. Okay, that whole thing. So Najee cuts off like this 7-yard run. We're down to the 4-yard line, and then like Washington is like jawing with somebody,
walking a guy into the end zone,
and somehow like I think one of the Eagles threw a punch at I think might have been Calvin Austin.
I think like they were pushing, like Darnell Washington was going a little long with the block, and then the other guy was going back at Washington, and another guy went in there to help, and Calvin Austin comes in, shoves that guy, and I'm pretty sure the Eagles guy throws a punch right at Austin's face.
Yeah.
And then a whole thing ensues. And somehow we get both penalties, which, like, look, I get it sometimes with like penalties and stuff like that. And like, I'm not saying that what our guys did was right. However, the NFL, like, it's a rule. Like the announcers always say it. Like, it's just a thing where it's like, man, whoever retaliates, that's who gets the penalty. But then this time it's like, oh, well, no. Whoever, like, we did it first, we get the penalty this time. And it's like the fluke of a penalty where it's like normally, it's going against the Eagles, but instead we get both penalties called on us.
Yeah, that was dumb. And that kicked us back from the 4-yard line. It would have been, I think it would have been 2nd and 3 because I don't think we were quite, I think we had an option to get a first down. Like, that's so different. That's so different.
Absolutely.
The difference between 3-3 and 7-3 at that juncture in the game, because at that juncture in the game, too, we were stopping Saquon. Saquon wasn't doing anything.
No.
And that was kind of the key to win is, like, you have to stop Saquon early on, and you got to make them come from behind. And, like, Hurts had a great game. He was very efficient. He threw the ball well. And that's another problem that, I mean, our secondary just got cooked way too much. But going back to, like, that play is, like, if you don't capitalize on 7 points against a team like the Eagles, against a team like the Ravens, against a team like the Chiefs, then you're not going to win. You're just straight up not going to win.
Absolutely. And I think that was, again, the turning point is, so they showed the stat. I saw it. We had 2 turnovers. We got 3 points. The Eagles had 1 turnover and got 7. It reminded me of in 2019, we were playing the Niners in San Francisco. This was the year they went to the Super Bowl, the Niners. We had 5 turnovers and got 6 points. And I think they had 1 or 2 and got like 10 or 14 points off of it. And we lost the game by like 4. And it's like, that's what happens when you don't capitalize. Like it should have been 2 for 14 and 1 for 7.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens when you don't capitalize on turnovers. And we've struggled with that for years. Like we've known that. But this year it did feel different. But in this game, our offense was like, it was like we reverted back to where we were.
And you're so right that it was different this year because I heard this stat. We've scored 85 points off of turnovers and we've given up 10 off of turnovers as a defense this season.
Yeah.
That is insane.
It's amazing. I mean,
but it didn't lose. But it didn't happen this game. And it's almost like you said, we just reverted back almost. And if you don't help yourself against these good teams, they're not going to help you anymore.
No, absolutely.
If you get 2 fumble recoveries in the first quarter, nonetheless, like you have to capitalize.
And you only get 3 points. Like that means that like rule of thumb, you get a turnover should never be an empty drive.
Yeah.
And so the fact that you get 1 empty drive and then a field goal it just makes it sick. Like it just makes you sick where it's like that's going to come back.
Right.
You know that's going to get you because like turnover points like aren't necessarily earned by the offense. And so you're playing with like house money when you get these turnovers and that's your points. And so you're just kind of waiting for the house to catch up with you. And Philly did.
Yeah. 100%. And then the one drive that they really actually kind of manufactured and it was working, like what happened on that drive that like was different? Like was there something so different about that drive that we couldn't replicate or something? Like, I don't know. I feel like we were finding Calvin Austin, we were finding Freiermuth, and Najee and Jaylen Warren had a couple of decent runs in there, if I remember correctly.
I don't really know how we got down the field, but we did have some good runs. I think that Warren had some good runs. I don't know why we don't, like, I do love Najee, but I don't know why we don't give Warren the ball more because, like, there were multiple times where it's like they gave it to Najee up the middle, he'd get a yard. They give it to Warren up the middle, he gets 4 or 5. And it's like, start with Warren, start with that pop and like make him, then have a second and medium and then maybe a third and shorter if you run with Najee again. But I think that they were getting rid of the ball quicker, like finding those quicker guys, making things happen. And then obviously the touchdown pass to Freiermuth was just a great catch by Freiermuth. Which they made me think, because I was about to say the pass was a little behind him.
Yeah.
Russ did not have a good game.
No.
He only had 125 passing yards with a touchdown. So, that's not good at all. And that's half the story, because you have that touchdown that, like, besides the fact that Freiermuth made an unbelievable catch and had unbelievable hands to fight for that ball, it would have been behind him, should have been broken up. You had a flea flicker play, our first play of the second half of the offense.
Yep.
And Calvin Austin's gone for a touchdown. If you just put it in the bucket.
He just needed to throw it farther.
Yeah.
Honestly, when Russ has an incredible arm. I don't know how he didn't throw it any farther than he did.
He does. And so I think that, like, there's a few moments like that where I'm just like, oh man, like, that's not good. Like, that's not going to keep you in a game. Like, you can't afford that. Again, like, you can afford it when it's the Giants, when it's the Jets or something. You can't afford it when it's a 12-win team. You've got to be on the money. And sometimes it seems like with Russ, the offense can be stale. Like, even last week, we saw it before that turnover that we got. Like, it seems like it can be a little stale, and partly because of him not getting the ball right where it needs to be.
Yeah. 2 great catches from Freiermuth and Calvin Austin.
Yes.
Like, that can't be understated.
No.
I don't know how either of them made either of those 2 catches. Freiermuth, like, that's just strong hands. That's like Penn State tight end hands right there.
It is.
I don't know how he came up with that. I don't know how it wasn't, like, ripped from him, like, as he was high pointing it. And then Calvin Austin completely had, like, a lunar eclipse coming across the ball. He could not have seen the ball when he put his arms out to catch it. I don't know how he caught it.
I don't either. I forget who the linebacker, I think it was a linebacker.
Was it Bond?
I think it was Bond. Was right in front of him. And, like, Calvin Austin's face was entirely, like,
behind
him by his body. And then he comes up with the ball. And I'm like, the reaction time was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then after that was the Najee fumble, and that was the nail in the coffin right there.
It really was. And I think that was kind of my point of where it just looked like there was too many plays and too many instances where it seemed like we weren't coached to the same level that this Eagles team was. Like, simple mistakes like that where, Najee, I mean, it's just like, man, I get it. Like, obviously I'm not blaming it on the coaches, but it's like, how do you not just catch that ball? Like, all you have to do is put it in. And it's like, he looks up too soon and then doesn't recover it. And then defensively, and I mentioned this once, like, on those later drives, it's like Loudermilk. I don't even know if Cam Hayward really played much the second half, which I don't know for what reason that was, but Isaiah Loudermilk was in the game a ton. And it's just like, why is he in the game when it's still a 7-point game? And, like, you're getting no pressure on this guy. And again, why are the Eagles, who have been struggling with passing basically the whole year, having a banner day against us?
Yeah.
I don't understand why our guys just don't look as good as these elite teams in the NFL.
Yeah. And the very distinct difference between the first half and the second half, I think, was the pressure, because we were getting home. I think Watt had 2 sacks in the first half.
And that fumble.
And the fumble.
Had another one.
Yeah.
I don't know how Jalen Hurts.
He probably could have had 4.
Yeah.
But they just, like, it was either Hurts. Yeah, it was Hurts. He, like, barely got ahead of the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
And, he very well could have had 4 sacks in the game. But the difference was in the second half, Hurts had like 4 seconds to throw. In the first half, he had less than 2 seconds to throw. And that's completely on the pressure. And if he has time to throw, sure, he's going to sit there and throw. And, I mean, the Eagles wide receivers were picking apart our zone defense.
Goodness.
Picking it apart all the time.
Well, they were wide open all the time. And then again, I said it before, but disheartening is you've got these guys, it's 3rd and 9, it's 3rd and whatever. They're behind the chains, and then they break 2 tackles and make our guys, like my dad said every week, because he was watching it with us, we're just looking silly, like, just letting these guys get around. And there was the one play where it's like 2 guys, including Watt, should have had Hurts for a sack. He escapes out of both, throws it parallel to their running back, who then makes 2 guys miss and gets a first down.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the Steelers defense, really? Like, the Steelers defense is you make a tackle right when you hit them.
Yeah.
And we looked so sloppy, especially in the second half. But I'd say as a whole, our defense, besides the turnovers, and like you said, and like we've said the last few weeks, is like when we don't get pass rush, our defense is a house of cards.
Yeah.
And that was on full display with both Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown having great games. And like we said, Barkley was quiet, but he turned it on towards the end.
Right. He's a finisher, and he finished.
Yeah.
And even Kenneth Gainwell.
Kenneth Gainwell did have a game. Yeah. And I think that, like, the Najee run was a bit of the nail in the coffin, but I think that, like, it almost felt like we were giving it up. And this is where earlier in the second half, Mike Tomlin let like 15 seconds run off the clock before calling a timeout.
Right.
Which we ended up scoring on that drive. So like, it's like, okay, we got points, but it's like, that's 15 seconds. You're just leaving, like just there, you're not taking. And then also it's 4th and 7. We're on the Philly, like 46 maybe. And it's 27-13. And there's like 10 minutes left in the game.
I want to say there was like 7.5, maybe 8, something like that.
Okay, yeah. No, I think you're right. 7.5, 8 minutes left in the game, and we decide to punt, which I don't understand that decision in the slightest. One, even though you're near the 50, you're on their side of the field. It's 7 yards, so it's not crazy. And this Eagles team's bread and butter is their O-line and their running backs. That is how you run out a game. Like, how do you not see, how do you trust in your defense who the whole game has not been able to stop this team? And like, sure, they were doing okay against the run game at that point. But
it was starting to crack before that.
Yes, there were runs, there were plays where it was like, oh.
Because that was something that I identified. In the first half, Saquon was getting hit behind the line. Yes. He was getting tackled for loss. He was getting 1, 2, maybe 3 yards. He would break off like a 4 or 5 yard run occasionally. But in the second half, he's getting 5, 6 yards. Like, here's an 8 yard run here. Here's another 4 or 5 yard run. And at that point, it's like, okay, Saquon is back. Like, they are running the way that the Eagles want to run the football now. And if you look at that and you say, okay, if you're retroactively looking back to the first half and you say, okay, over the course of the game, we're stopping them, but you're neglecting the fact that you've been failing to stop them because they're getting 5, 6, 7 yards a run in the second half. And you're saying, okay, we're going to get the ball back twice with 7 minutes to go when Saquon's already running for 5, 6, 7 yards in the second half. Like, again, I think I said it when it might have been last week, might have been 2 weeks ago, but the feel of the game, I think that was the Bengals game. The feel of the game.
Yeah.
Yes, over the course of the whole game, sure, you've been stopping the run. I don't think the Eagles had much over 100 yards of rushing in this game, which, I think they're usually around 200 yards a game. So the fact that, like, you're taking the blanket statement and you're not looking at the finer details like that and seeing that Saquon did start to get his legs turning at the end, that's a mistake. And you're saying, okay, we're going to get the ball back not once, but twice in this 7 minute span. That was a problem. And I think you, me, and your dad were all saying, why are we punting here?
Yeah.
Because even if we don't get it, okay, whatever. But like, we punted and they got it down to their 4 yard line and they walked all the way down the field and milked the rest of the game.
That was the whole game. We never got the ball back. And it's like, I hope he learned from that. But again, it's just like, man, it is just, he can't coach he's never won coach of the year. He's never been the best coach ever in the NFL. Maybe he's probably never even been a top 4 in a year. And I think it's just, it's hard. It's hard when the head of your team makes those decisions that put you in losing situations. It's just hard to overcome that. Like, there's no mistaking that. There's no denying that when your head coach puts you in a position to lose and basically is content with risking it, which is really not a risk. You know that the Eagles are going to take up at least 5 of those 7 minutes.
That is how they play football.
Yeah.
That is literally their mantra. It is not like, if you take any other team, maybe that makes a little bit of sense. But this is the Philadelphia Eagles who are rushing for like 8 yards a carry on the season. And Saquon is starting to run better again. Not like he was in the first half, but in the second half, he was starting to run better. And if you don't see that, then yes, it makes sense why you would punt it away. But if you take even if Saquon was running well in the first half, do you think it would have changed? Because what's the difference? You're down by 14.
You need to score.
You have to. And you're not gonna get the ball back with a team that is literally just trying to milk clock.
Right. It's a team that is, it just doesn't make sense at all when we're a team that really can't what you think we're going to score. So we punt the ball there, we get the ball back, score a touchdown before the 2 minute warning. And then you think we're going to stop them then. And even if we do, our offense isn't built for a 2, which is a horrible thing to say, but our offense isn't really built for that 2 minute go down and score a touchdown.
Especially without George Pickens.
Especially without George Pickens.
They needed to score there and hoped that they stopped them on a 3 and out after they scored. That was probably the only way they were ever going to win that game.
Yeah. And I think that you mentioned without George Pickens, we talked about that a few times. And yeah, we can say that. And it definitely had a huge effect. However,
huge effect. Don't underestimate that.
Yes,
keep going though.
It's a completely different game because he's not in. However, it does not excuse, once again, the misuse of your players. Again, Mike Williams never getting one pass that was a 13-yard catch that set up that 4th down and 7.
Over the middle. It wasn't like anybody could have done that.
Right. But you have a guy who can go deep, who's done it all his career, and has succeeded in it, who succeeded last week. And you never do it once in this game. That's why we couldn't run the ball, is because I knew we couldn't go deep. And like, that is the issue. Like, it makes me sick where Tomlin, like when they were like, why isn't Mike Williams getting the ball? And he's just like, oh, patience. Like, you just got to wait for it. You just got to wait for it. It's going to happen.
What are we waiting for?
A week for it to happen. You don't have George Pickens. You're against 11-2 Eagles team. And you're like, well, no. Next week. It's like, it's going to be, we're going to be in a way wild card game. And you're still going to be saying next week. Are you just being lazy? Like, get your guys, use them the best way that they can so you can win. I don't understand he's so content with just being all right. He's so content with getting a player and saying like, oh, give him time. He'll grow into where he needs to go.
He's a veteran.
No, this is the NFL. This isn't the MLB or the NBA where you got a million games. You have 17. There's no time. There's no break. There's no game off. You have to get your guys ready to go. I don't understand.
And also, like, where's Roman Wilson? Does he exist?
I don't know. I know that he was like on the IR. I thought he came off it.
I did too.
I thought he got hurt again after, but I've not heard of him since. So, and Scotty Miller again, he hasn't done anything.
Which I think whenever we throw his way, he makes plays.
He does.
Like, why isn't he involved more, I feel like?
Even our wide receivers just aren't involved. If it's not number 14, it's no one. And Calvin Austin's starting to break that mold.
Yes.
But it's still.
But he's not a wide receiver one, and he can't expect that workload, and he shouldn't have to. Like I think Ben Skoranek had a nice long catch in the game for a first down.
Yeah.
Scotty Miller had a nice catch for a first down. Like, how is it that like we can't keep getting to them? Like, is it impossible for us to like throw Scotty Miller's way 5 or 6 times and see what he does?
Yeah.
Same thing with Ben Skoranek. Like, I think like, I don't know. Like, I think we're very like, we want to run the ball. I know we want to run the ball.
Yes.
But sometimes like we just don't.
Well, and I think that like Russ, the issue is like, yeah, like to your point, is like, let's take the check down. If that's what they're giving us, and there was multiple times where we could see the running back or like the slot receiver had the check down. If it's first or second down, or like it's a short third down, take the check down. I think Russell Wilson, he gets in this mindset where he's like, I'm looking deep first. And by they were bringing 4 and they would get there. So by the time he was like, oh, the deep's not there, I got to look at the check down. There's someone in my face. Like, it's like, no, like understand the game that you're in. Understand that George Pickens isn't there. Understand that we're just not using Mike Williams, and that the checkdowns were there. Like, you can't deny that, like, for a lot of the plays, especially on first down, second down, when we were throwing the ball, that the checkdowns were there. It's like, take what the defense gives you. And like, once you do that, they'll give you more, because then the other stuff opens up. And so I don't know like why no one, maybe someone did and you just didn't listen, but like, it's like, why are you not telling him, take what they're giving you? Like, there's nothing else we can do. Just take it, And
I just feel like the scheme also just wasn't there this week.
No.
We saw the flea flicker.
Yeah.
That worked.
Could have been a touchdown, which
could have been.
Yeah.
It worked like as far as like, it got a lot of yards though. So at base level, it worked.
Right.
But like, I guess like in a game where you kind of have to dig into the bag a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, especially this week. I don't like this again. This game panned out exactly how I thought it would. The score differential, everything exactly how I thought it would. But like, why does it have to go that way? Like, I knew it was going to happen, but why isn't it that we can't just dig in the bag a little farther and, go out and win this game? I think if we would have won this game, would we have locked up the AFC North?
I think that
we still would have had one more game.
Yes, because the Ravens won, and so they have 5 losses. So we would have won.
But then we wouldn't have had to beat the Ravens.
Exactly.
We could have won either the Chiefs or the Bengals game.
Yeah, we could have won. If we had won this week, all we needed to do was win 1 out of the next 3, and we.
So, okay, retroactively, thinking back to what I said last week, do you think that what I said was true, that they kind of punted this week? Do you think that they're looking forward to that Ravens week still? Based on what you just saw?
Well, it looked like it. I mean, we actually punted. Like, I think that, like, I don't understand where I think, like, again, Mike Tomlin, it's like, are you like, what? Like, what's going through your mind? Like,
that's exactly what I thought. When he punted, that's what I thought. You took it right out of my windpipes. It's like, yeah, they punted the game, and like that's what their plan was all along, it seems like.
And you can't, as a leader, you can't do that, because then that lets your players know, oh, there's a time for us. Like, it's okay if we just are like, I'm done. I don't really think it's worth it anymore. It's like, what message are you sending to your players by being like, by one, you're not having faith in them. Like, it looked like after the big catch to Mike Williams, Russell Wilson was running up to the line. I think he was ready to set up a 4th down play and go for it. And then he looked over and Waitman was coming out, and so he walks. I was like, what does that tell your guys? It's like, you're not even going to give us a chance.
Right.
They're just sitting down for the last 7 minutes, watching the offense burn the entire clock out and think, man, why didn't we get that play? What had happened if we get that play?
And what message does that send to Russ as far as perhaps what he considers in his future in Pittsburgh.
Right.
Because we have a big decision to make at the end of this year. Are we going to keep Russ? Are we going to keep Fields? Are we going to keep both? Or are we going to keep neither of them?
Oh, goodness.
So, which, like, that's a real decision that we have to make. And, like, Russ, I don't know Russ's mind. Russ is one of those guys that, like, I can't read him sometimes. And I don't think many people can.
Yeah.
Whatever he says about maybe, like, loving Pittsburgh, I feel like everybody says that, unless it's, like, some poverty franchise somewhere that it's like, yes, I hate it here. But, like,
no one's going to,
Right. But with Pittsburgh, it's like, yes, my head coach is Mike Tomlin, player's coach, like, very, like, easy to connect with as a player. Like, does him saying that he likes Pittsburgh mean that he'll take a little hometown discount in this upcoming free agency? Or is he still going to demand a whole bunch of money because he's putting up 30 points a game a good bit?
Well, and it brings you to the point that I kind of forgot. That's like, we do have to make that decision. We do have to think about next year. And I think that's the problem with Mike Tomlin for, I mean, who knows, maybe ever, but like for a while, is like, he's always like, all right, next game, next year. He's like, all right, we got Russ and Justin Fields right now. Let's see which one both work this year. And then next year we'll make the decision and we'll start to make. It's like, if you have that mindset of next game, next year, always, it'll never come, because you're always like, oh, but next year will be our year. It's like, it's never going to be your year if you don't play or fight for it. Like, it's like when you have this, when you play like this, whereas like you give up, it's like, yeah, you're never going to win. And when you have that mindset of like, you should have every year, every game going into it, like, let's like the Lions, they use every play they have.
Every single one.
To win. And it's like, that's why, well, they're 12-2. And we have lost to 3 below 500 teams that won't make the playoffs. And you want to know why? It's because we don't empty our playbook. It's because we got at least like 30% of our team that we're just waiting for. We're waiting for that one game, right? For that day.
What are we waiting for at this point?
The problem is when you don't use that stuff and when you don't use your full potential and you're saving it, you'll never get to where you can use it, because you lose. It's like pitching in baseball. If you don't use your star pitchers in the early playoff games, you're never going to get to the World Series.
Right.
And it's just something that Mike Tomlin has been taken from baseball to football, and he still doesn't understand it. And we've got to unload. We've got to unload the playbook and go with our best players, with our best plays, and be like, listen, we've got a gauntlet these next 3 games. Screw the playoffs. All right, yes, we're in them. Let's show that we can actually beat a great team.
Yeah. And like, not the Ravens too, like, because we can beat them. And I have a theory about this Ravens week. We'll get to that in a little bit. That's the whole thing. It's like, this, of all the weeks to empty it out, this was the one.
Absolutely.
Because if you can beat the Ravens straight up normally, because like we don't have to dig into the playbook to beat the Ravens, it seems
you really
like.
Don't.
Like, to beat the Eagles in a stadium that you haven't won in a city you haven't won in 60 years, like, I feel like you got to dig in there at some point.
You gotta like, is Tomlin just not competitive? Does he just not have that fire inside where, like, you see like Dan Campbell or other guys where they just, they want to win.
And it's like it's the most irrelevant opponent either. Like the Lions are up like 55 points on the Jags or something like that. And Dan Campbell's just like,
don't throw that board down, score again.
Right.
It's like, yes, that mentality of the game ain't over until the clock hits 0. It's like, does Tomlin have that, like, that mentality of like, let's go take it, let's go win?
And it's the Eagles. I hate the Eagles.
No, it's Pennsylvania. It's the battle for
Pennsylvania. Exactly. Does he not hate the Eagles? Because I hate the Eagles.
I mean, he's never beat them, obviously, when they're away. I think he's only beat them once in his entire career.
Does he not look at the sea of degenerate people that are in Philadelphia and say, man, I want to stick it to you. Man, I want to stick it to you people.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to burn the city down after I'm done with you. Does he not want that? Because I want that.
I don't know. And he used to, like, I watched the old Super Bowl videos, like when he went and won, like watching him talking to players, he had that fire. Like seeing clips of him getting guys hyped up. I've never seen that. Probably in the last 10 years, I haven't seen him hype a player up or get his team hyped to go play a game. It looks like he's just going to work, like, which obviously, yes, is a job. But it looks like he's like, all right, I'm clocking in. Let's do this thing. Let's do our job. Let's keep going to next week. It's like, what are you doing? This is football. You play to win the game, the one that's right in front of you. Stop looking to next week or next year or the playoffs, because it'll never come if you don't win the game that's right in front of you. The most important game is this one. And he doesn't understand that, because he's just like, it's so frustrating.
Man.
It just, and then, I mean, on top to insult to injury, who knows what's going on with TJ Watt?
Yeah, for real. And that's, again, it goes back to your point so perfectly, because it's like, if you're looking to next week, if you're saying, okay, we'll throw everything we can at the Ravens next week.
We can't
now, because now TJ Watt's hurt.
Right. And that's the point. Like, and Oh man, you see, like, so it'll be interesting to see how we do if TJ Watt's out for a while, because we've seen how the Lions.
We can't win without him.
Well,
the Steelers can't win without him.
And that is the most frustrating thing, because, and you know what? Again, I've talked about how Tomlin isn't a schematic guy. He relies on his players making plays from day one. And the point that I'm going to make is the Lions' X factor on defense, their game changer was Aiden Hutchinson.
Yep. Defensive play of the year if he's healthy all year, by far, not even close.
He gets lost for the year, and they
still win.
This is their first loss without him.
Right.
Their first loss without him.
And it's to the Bills, who were like a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, with the likely MVP leading their offense. And so, and that's coaching. How do people not see that? Oh, so these guys can go and win. Like, the Packers can win with Malik Willis.
Yes.
And we, how do people not see that? Like, why is it that we have to have the best edge rusher in the league to win a football game? That we got no one else that can balance that out? That we've got no coaching that can even the scales? It's like, why are we content with a team that if we lose one player, we might as well count up the week as a loss?
Yeah.
When we got these other teams that are we're fighting for the division. We've got the playoffs. We're fighting for the division,
but nobody cares about the playoffs.
No, and you've got guys fighting for the Super Bowl because they know how to coach no matter who's on the field. The Chiefs might lose Patrick Mahomes. They're going to win with Carson Wentz.
Yep, they will.
It's going to happen.
They will. You're absolutely right.
Because they can coach. And it's just ridiculous that people can't wake up and see that we're stuck in this mediocrity because we can't coach.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
It's
you're right. You're always right.
Let it up, please. Oh man,
you're absolutely right.
Yeah,
and I hate that I was right about this week.
Yeah,
I was saying this in hopes that it was a little reverse jinx action,
right?
Because I've seen this movie before. Like, I've watched Steelers football since they won the Super Bowl in 2009, and even just a little bit before that. Like, my entire what's that? Like 15 years I've been watching Steelers football. Like, I have watched this entire story play out, and it's like reuse, recycle. It's the same story. And
we can't beat the best teams.
No,
ever.
We can beat the Ravens.
We can.
And they might be a really, 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 really good team. But like, when you go to the NFC and you play the Eagles, they can't win that game.
No.
And they can't beat, they can beat their divisional opponents.
Yeah.
Anybody can win in the AFC North.
And props to that for, like, yes, as a coach, as a team, you focus on the division games. Like, the Steelers are great against the division.
Now, if we can have this conversation right now, if they beat the Ravens next week, is this all obsolete?
No, because beat a team with less than 5 wins. Because I don't think we have this year. Because the Commanders, the Broncos, and the Chargers all now have 5 or more losses. So you look at all.
Right. There's an obvious, like, tier.
Yes.
There's tiers.
There's the jump. So it's like, all right, if we beat the Ravens this week, cheers, let's go.
We won the division. Whoa.
Yeah, I would have confidence about winning a wild card game.
Yeah.
But the Chiefs, the Bills, the Lions, the Eagles, and I'd probably honestly throw the Packers in there.
I would too.
Could we beat them? I still don't know. I still, like, I thought maybe we were different, but this week is making me think, are we still the same Steelers team that can't beat the best 4 teams?
Right.
That can't be in the elite, like, in contention for the Super Bowl.
Sure.
And so I'd say that I think, honestly, I won't know how good we are until the playoffs. Because
even that Chiefs game, it looks like it might have a little bit of smudge on it.
Now that Mahomes is going in and out, and, like, you know, that'll be.
And what will they have to play for at that point anyway?
Especially, like, if the Chiefs win next week, they might as well put in all their backups for the last 2 games of the year.
Right. They have no reason.
No, they got the 1 seed. And so, yeah, I think that I'm very concerned that we're just, once again, you know, we got a playoff spot, but can we actually win a playoff game?
Here's another thing I'm thinking about just now. Like, these last 4 games, who did we play last week?
The Browns.
Okay. And then the Bengals before that.
And
okay.
Then,
yeah. So let's take these last 4 games. Eagles, Ravens, Chiefs, Bengals. I would look at that as a coach, and I would say, what an opportunity we have. What an opportunity we have to play one of the best teams in the NFC. What an opportunity we have to play our biggest rival in our own division. What an opportunity we have to play the 2-time reigning Super Bowl champions. What an opportunity we have to play once again against one of the best offenses in the National Football League. What an opportunity we have to do some damage in these next 4 games. Do they have to go 4-0? No. Do they even have to go 3-1? No. But, like, could you at least, like, I feel like 2-2 against, like, any smorgasbord of those teams, And I would love for that 2-2 to not just come against the Bengals and the Ravens,
Right.
you know? Like, can we get one of those wins against the Eagles or the Chiefs?
Right.
Which is why I was saying coming into this week, I was like, I asked you the question, if you could only win one more game, who would you win it against?
Yeah.
And you said the Ravens. And that's exactly what I would have said too, because it locks up a home playoff game for us.
Right.
But now I'm thinking about it and I'm like, why didn't we just beat the Eagles? You know?
Why didn't, like, it's so true. It just didn't look like we threw everything we had at them. It looked like we threw in the towel before the game was over, which just makes me sick. And it's just like, how could you do that? And to your point, yes, you've got to find a way to sell to your team that every game, like, this is the most important game. Like, somehow you've got to pitch it like
you better win this one.
This one we have to win. And like, I think that almost came to a factor with the Lions this week, where they started out a little slow, where it's like, yeah, you're 12-1. It's hard to continue. Like, oh man, like we got to keep winning every single week. Every single week is still the most important week. And well, you've got to do that. And I don't even know if Tomlin tries. Like, I think it's easy to be like, let's beat the Ravens. Who doesn't hate the Ravens? And like the Browns and the Bengals, like those are your divisional opponents. Everyone knows, every player, no matter if they've just joined or not, knows the divisional opponents are like the most important games of the year.
Right.
Can you coach your guys or tell your guys and get them hype for the games that don't matter?
Those extracurricular games.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, like, I'm seeing this all now in retrospect. And I'll be honest, I was honestly looking to that Ravens game. I personally punted this week because of all the statistics coming into the game, because of just how unlikely it was that we were to win this game anyway, the point spread, all of that stuff. I punted this week. I think, what was it? That Browns, was the Browns, the Bengals? I want to say it was that Bengals week. I completely forgot that we were playing the Eagles in between our Browns and Ravens weeks.
Oh, yeah.
I completely forgot about that. So
that's because I remember you saying that, like, we were talking about the Browns game and you were like, and then
on to that more.
And I was like, wait, I thought we played the Eagles.
You're right.
Yeah, that's so funny.
And so I was subconsciously punting this week in my mind.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's realistic that they did this week as well.
Absolutely. Especially, like, you know, once in the second half, nothing was working. I think they probably, like,
we're just like, okay, let's get out of here.
Yeah, Tomlin was like, all right, like, whatever, like, we're done. And it's just like, I despise that. I just, like, man, I would, as a coach, you're supposed to just be like, if you don't leave the field playing 100%, if you don't leave the field thinking there's nothing else I could have done, then stay on there. I don't want you to come back with us. If you're like, oh man, I could have done so much more. You should have just gone out and done it and do it. Because, and that's it's just so often, are we ever giving 100%? Like, do we ever see
our tackling today did not look like it. Our tackling was abysmal
and
today.
That's why the running game got worse in the second half, is
because we could not tackle.
We would still get them at the line of scrimmage.
Right, we're hitting them exactly how we've been hitting them all game.
But would not tackle.
Right.
But would never finish the tackle. And it's just, why, like, we're getting worn down, they're not. Like, what? Well, I guess, I mean, they were physically getting a little banged up, but they can still run 8 yards.
You wouldn't have known.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's very just discouraging loss.
Yeah. And I keep going back to the fact that I knew this was going to happen. Like, I've seen this story enough times to know that almost the exact score to this game, exactly how this game was going to pan out. This was an expected result, but it just sucks that it was an expected result, because I feel like our expectations could have been higher, specifically this year. Any other year, it's like, okay, if we're meddling around 500, you come into this Eagles week, it's like, okay, like this, yeah, whatever, you move on. But like, with the quality of team that we have displayed, that we have this season, like you've said it every week, this season looks different. This looks like 2018. Like, why is it that now we're reverting back? And are we ever going to get back on track is the question. Like I said, we could lose any one of, if not all 4 of these last 4 games. We've already got 1 loss.
Yeah, and that's the big problem, is like the fact that after this loss, we do have to get back on track.
We have to.
And there is no game to get back on track.
No.
Especially, like, we got a game Saturday, so it's technically a short week.
Yeah.
And then we got the Christmas Day game, so it's an even shorter week. So there is no back on track this year. There is no, like, oh man, we had a little bit of a skid, but we got a couple games here that we can kind of get back into things. No, you're playing playoff teams, 2 playoff teams from here on out, and the Bengals.
One that might as well be a playoff team if they had an actual defense.
Exactly. And so, like, if they're relying on a bounce back game, you're not going to get one. You have to come out there and play 100%.
Yeah, you have to earn it from this point forward.
Yeah.
All right, you want to talk about the Ravens? I know we got a long way to go. Actually, maybe not as long as we normally would have, because it's a Saturday game.
Yes.
What time is it? Like a 4 o'clock game?
Yeah, 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah. Same as it's going to be on Fox too, so I think we'll get Tom Brady again.
Hey, what'd you think of him?
I liked him, actually. I liked his points. I thought that he I liked what he was contributing. I was like, there wasn't a moment where I was just like, all right, what are we saying? I was kind of like, oh, like, interesting facts. Like, cool. And I liked he's just so smart and like he knows football. And so hearing him talk about the game, I was like, that's cool. I love like hearing how smart you are about the game. So, I mean, and who knows? Maybe he's grown a lot since the beginning of the year. I'm sure he has.
Yeah.
It always takes time, but I like him. I think he's good.
Yeah. Do you like Tony Romo?
I do. We've only had him once this year. So like
that was last week, right?
Yeah.
See, I didn't get to listen to that game. I was listening to it on the radio.
Yeah, we had him last week. And, we used to get him at least like 3 times a year. And so like I loved him like when we got him 3 times a year. But the game this year, he did have like 1 or 2 things where it was like what are you saying? Like, no, like that doesn't make sense. But I still I like him. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Like people make mistakes. But my one friend does not like him this year.
Romo?
So, for some reason. But I mean, I'll still stand by that. I like him until he proves otherwise.
I love Tony Romo because I feel like I learn something every time.
Yeah.
Like you know more about football than I do. So I usually, it's true though. Like you could coach a team right now and like I would just kind of be sitting there like, oh yeah, sure. Like I'd just be your hype guy. But like for not as little as I know about football, but definitely less than like maybe some other fans. What was that?
That was my brother. He's playing video games.
Nice. Fortnite?
Either that or college football.
I've been playing a lot of Fortnite recently.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's the new season.
Yeah. Well, the old season.
Oh, right. Everyone's going crazy.
Yeah. What was I saying? Romo. Oh, so yeah.
Yeah.
So like I like Romo because I always learn something and I take that with me when I like apply football knowledge later. Like there's so many times when he says something insightful, usually it's when he's like drawing on the screen, showing like what coverages look like.
Yeah.
And I learned so much like when Tony Romo is the analyst. And I could definitely tell that like Brady is definitely on that track.
Yes.
I think just Brady's communication is the thing that just needs to develop. Because Romo is such a good communicator, I feel like. Brady is definitely, he knows, he just needs to find a way to get it from his head to his mouth, I think.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. Like he has the knowledge. He's just got to spell it all out for us.
Right. And that just comes with time.
Right. And I think he has even taken a lot of steps since the beginning of the year. And so, yeah, I like him. I'm excited to, it's a Ravens Steelers. We'll definitely have him next week.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to, and like, we had some other family over too. So we were talking a lot during the games. We didn't get to hear him as much.
Yeah.
Next week will be a little different because it should be just like, the family. But,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So Ravens.
Yes.
I have thoughts, and I've been thinking this thought even before this Eagles game today. Again, we're doing this on Sunday afternoon. David and I are together. We are seeing each other face to face and recording this episode.
Yeah.
So we are getting our very raw takes on this week. So in the same way, we are getting our very raw takes on this Ravens week.
Yeah.
But even before this Eagles game that just happened, here was my thought, and I have nothing to back this up, but actually I kind of do have something to back this up. No matter what happened this week, the Steelers are going to lose to the Ravens next week. Even if the Steelers won today, they were going to lose to the Ravens this coming week. Why? Because the NFL needs reason to keep people watching. And you know why I say that? Because the Steelers were getting a little too far away in the standings to make it to where that Ravens game was not going to mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
And to the point where those last 2 games of the season in weeks, 17 and 18, they were also not going to mean a whole lot. So that means that the Ravens are going to win this week, no matter what happens, because the NFL needs reason for, people to keep watching.
Interesting. So you're kind of going on it's rigged.
Absolutely.
Wow. Interesting.
Absolutely.
I normally don't feed into, I normally am like, I try and close my mind to that because I'm just like, I don't want to believe that it's even close to real. There are instances though, of course, where you're like, oh man. But I don't want to buy into that.
Okay.
I was going to say,
go ahead.
I do also think we're going to lose this week.
Okay, but not for the same reason that I do.
No.
Okay, here's why I think that. I think the NFL product is declining rapidly.
Yes.
If you look at the 1 o'clock slates for today,
rough.
It was abysmal.
It
was awful. Every single team that was expected to win won. And if there was a team that wasn't expected to win, it was a meaningless game. It was a game between like a 3 and
Jets,
3, yeah,
Jaguars.
Yeah, exactly. Who's watching that game?
Right.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Who was watching the Chiefs-Browns game that I was at? Nobody. There wasn't even anybody in the stadium. There was a lot of empty seats there. And I even left at halftime because it's like, I don't have any reason to watch this. The Chiefs are just going to win by 2 scores again.
Yeah.
I think they had 6 turnovers. I think the Browns had 6 turnovers in the game as well.
And their Chiefs defense was on my bench in a playoff game this year.
Yes.
So that was very unfortunate.
And Josh Allen was on my roster this year.
Man, I can't believe it.
I think he put up another like 50 piece
something
maybe
like that. They took a touchdown away from him too.
Yeah, I know. He could have had 60 again.
Yeah.
Well,
oh man.
So that's kind of my roundabout point is that I think the NFL product is declining as a whole. So they need reason for people to keep watching teams like the Ravens and the Steelers.
Yeah.
Because the Ravens play a cupcake schedule outside of this Steelers game for the rest of the year. I think they have the Texans. They should win that game. If they lose that game, then hey, we win the division. Yay.
Right.
And then I think they play like, who do they play?
Texans will be a tough game.
It would be a tough game, but it's like, if it didn't have any like division implications, then I don't think many people would watch it, really.
Right.
Because the Texans have already locked up their spot.
Yeah.
And then at that point, then the Ravens would just be jostling for whatever wild card spot they get. And you were even saying it when we were looking at the standings upstairs, like the AFC is already locked up.
Yeah. It's
the 7 teams in the AFC are the 7 teams.
Yeah.
The Colts are not making the playoffs. They will not make the playoffs. The Dolphins, they're not making the playoffs either.
The Bengals.
No, you tried to tell me that it's not going to happen.
Yeah, here's the thing though. The Chargers are 8-6. So and the Ravens beat the Chargers. So they're both, who am I talking about? The Bengals.
Yeah.
Wait, did the Bengals lost to the Chargers? Okay, so likely not.
Right.
But
the 7 teams in the AFC are set.
Yeah.
And like the scheduling, they have like those Saturday, Sunday flexes at the very last week of the season, you know?
Yeah.
It's like the AFC won't even account into any of those things.
No.
And even if you look at the NFC,
not really.
Like there's not a lot of like contention and like there's not a lot of teams in the hunt.
No.
Like there's a couple teams that like the NFC West is like just this like abysmal division that nobody seems to want to win, and they're all just kind of mid.
Yeah.
So like the NFL needs to keep people watching, you know?
They do. There's just not a lot of parity going on.
No.
There's the teams that are
there are a very distinct like upper tier. And I think we saw today that the Eagles are a part of that tier. And I think we saw today that the Steelers are not part of that tier.
Well, and it's interesting almost. I mentioned baseball again, but going back to it, it almost is like you've got the teams that have all the money and the teams
the Yankees, the Mets, and the Dodgers.
Right.
And they're all signing every single free agent. They're all signing, or they're all trading for all the best players.
Right.
It's like you got those 3 teams and then everybody else.
Right. And now even though it's different with the money, the NFL is almost the same way, where it's like you got these 4 teams and then everyone else is kind of fighting for 3rd or 4th place.
Yep.
And it's they need, I don't know what. Well, one thing they could do about it is just get rid of all this guaranteed money, because the Browns were in the playoffs last year. If they didn't have all this guaranteed money, Deshaun Watson, they'd have moved on ages ago.
So quickly.
And so, like, I think
would they have made the playoffs this year? I don't know, even with Jameis Winston.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I'm watching their product like live today.
Yeah.
And it was hard to watch. It was so hard to watch.
Yeah. And so, like, I think the guaranteed money has kind of ruined a lot. I really don't like it. Kind of like now how the NIL is starting to ruin college.
Oh, yeah.
Money is the root of all problems. But
it is. Yeah. Every single sport.
Yeah.
Every single sport.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm getting to that point in baseball too. And baseball is my primary sport. If I could talk about baseball for 24 hours a day, I would. And baseball is getting to that point where I'm sick of seeing another free agent sign with the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Mets. Like, I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely right. Money is like, it's destroying sports almost.
It is. It's not about, like, it used to be about the sport.
It used to be about winning.
Anymore.
It used to be about winning championships.
Yes. And now, like if you look at an NBA game now, there is a advertisement on every single part of the court. It's like, what am I even looking at?
Right.
And like, they've just monetized it too much.
And with like the NBA Cup now,
oh my,
they're like they're trying to get players to try.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to give them an incentive. And what's the incentive? They all get $1 million if they win the NBA Cup or something like that. And they're trying to get people to try, and because they don't try during the regular season.
Right. And it's sad to see how things are falling apart. And I think part of it is too because of it's also because of money, because you want to, like, people are so focused on keeping players healthy because of money, because of the guaranteed money, or because, it won't be as entertaining if these people are hurt. It's not because of the actual player. And so now there's so many more rules to the game, where I asked my friend who's a diehard Boston Celtics fan. He says it all the time when he's watching his games. This game isn't even close to what it used to be like 5 years ago, 8 years ago. You look at even hockey now, it's so different. Like, people don't even fight anymore. You look at baseball, things have changed a lot. I'm a fan of the pitcher count, but like, still a lot of differences. NFL has changed it's a sad way, just how much they've changed. And so they're making everything's getting worse. That's the point. The point I'm trying to make is everything is getting worse.
Are sports going downhill as a whole?
Which, I mean, is a problem for just America itself, because America's pastime is sports.
Yes.
So, like, if that goes down, what happens?
Right. Like, what will people have to lean on? Like, I think about 9/11. Sammy Sosa hit a home run in Chicago right after 9/11.
Yeah.
What does he do? He runs around the bases with a small American flag. Even thinking about, like, like President Bush throwing out the first pitch at the Yankees game.
He wasn't at like, some like economic like boom or the Pentagon or whatever. He was at a baseball game.
Yes,
pitch.
exactly.
That's how America works.
Exactly. Sports is so important, and we're ruining it with money.
We are. And it's like, and like even you go into like another thing that America's built on is movies, and like that's at an all-time low. And so it's like, oh my gosh, what is happening?
We are going down the drain.
We are.
Repent.
Repent. Yes. Turn around. Roger Goodell, get rid of these rules.
Yes.
Fix us, please.
Jeez, oh man.
Oh, but back to the Ravens.
This is why I love the fact that we're together and we don't have to wait for the delay on the FaceTime, because we can actually talk to each other.
Yeah, we should try and do it like next week.
If we can.
Yes.
So, I think I'm leaving to go home this week, though.
Okay.
I'm going back to North Carolina.
Okay. Yeah. Because I'm going to say the door would have been open for you to come watch the Ravens game with us. And right after, I'm a fan of the Ohio State Buckeyes. They play that first playoff game right after against Tennessee.
Oh, like 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Wow.
Which I'm very doubtful about both games. So it's kind of interesting.
Great.
Yeah.
You might have a rough day.
It really could be.
Do the Penguins play that day at like 1 o'clock or something?
I hope not. Because did they lose last night? I know
they lost in overtime. They were down the whole game, and honestly, the fact that they like brought it to overtime was good. Yeah. So they got a point, but like they needed 2 points there.
Yeah.
So that was kind of tough.
Yeah.
They're hanging around.
I mean, it's how we've been the past. I mean, I feel like it's been worse this year than the past few, but like
it started worse. It's getting better. Yeah. They're not losing like 4 or 5 straight now.
Yeah.
Which I guess, I mean, they lost last night, so we'll see what happens. But I think they're trending in the right direction, and they're beating some good teams too. So
yeah, I mean, we beat the Bruins, which was that was on Black Friday. So
yeah, you're right.
That was a good game.
Yeah, they beat like a bunch of playoff teams in a row. So they're trending upward. But again, it's like,
can we do anything?
Right.
Yeah. Kind of same conversation as always.
Pittsburgh sports, baby. Don't you love Pittsburgh sports?
Oh man, and even Pitt, like in the
oh my gosh, Pitt's collapse.
I can't believe I haven't asked you
about they were it's literally the 2020 Steelers.
Yeah,
they like couldn't lose, and then they never won again.
And funny enough, I was at their last win.
I know, that's funny. And they crushed them.
They crushed them. We saw 3 pick sixes. I was with a Syracuse fan, and like it was so fun. And then to see that they never won another game,
and like none of them were like even close, really.
The Clemson game
was close, but then they blew it.
Yeah,
and just like in classic Pitt fashion.
Yeah, it was great. Man, we're just stuck there as a city right now.
We're on our rocker because we lost this week. Imagine the different conversation we would have had. And it all goes back to just win this week. If you would have won this week, then you wouldn't have had to really worry about the Ravens, because then you could have taken your pick. Do you win? You could have won any of the last 3 games. And like, again, the Ravens have to play the Texans still, and that's a tough game for them, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So if you win this week, then you're in good shape.
Right.
Except they didn't win, and now they're in bad shape.
Yeah.
And they're honestly endangering themselves. Realistically, they could be the 6th seed by the time it's all said and done.
No, and it's scary to think about that we could go from like, man, we were fighting for the 1 seed to now like, all right, there's no way we're going to 1 seed. And now we've got to like be like, all right, are we even going to win the division? It went from like, I think we're going to win the division, we could get a 1 seed, to like, thank goodness we're in the playoffs. Like, thank goodness we're at least clinched.
Well, and now we are in the playoffs, but like nobody cares.
Right. Right. I mean, like I saw you looked it up, the post on Instagram. It's like everyone's happy in the post, like, oh, we clinched playoffs, and it's like
nobody's happy.
No, like who cares? Like, no, who cares? We just lost 10 minutes ago, like by 14, and it was abysmal. And so, yeah, and now like again, don't have hope for this next week. Like I do see us losing, kind of like you obviously say the same thing. I think that now I know that like Harbaugh and Tomlin are so similar, and that like we do always think they're going to change. However, they never do. However, I will give credit to Harbaugh for switching up his offense at least to Lamar. But I think that Harbaugh feels the pressure now more than ever that like you need to beat the Steelers, especially at home. You kind of get the pass last year because Lamar didn't start when we beat them last week at home, or last year at home, but we beat them at home. Oh man, a lot of years in a row, I feel like. Yeah. I mean, in 2022, we beat them at home. 2021, we beat them at home to knock them out of the playoffs. Like as Harbaugh, you talk to a Ravens fan, there's heat. There's heat. Just like how I feel heat towards Tomlin, which I didn't realize was there for Ravens fans. He's got to feel that now more than ever, because I mean, he could win the division. They could win the division easily. They could easily win the division. And so I think that he's going to give it all he's got as a coach this game. I think that they're going to learn from their mistakes of not using Derrick Henry at all. Like, I feel like now's the time more than ever to use Derrick Henry, especially when you're on the goal line or going for 2. 2-point conversions have been the bane of Harbaugh's existence against us, because I mean, there's 2 times in the past like 4 years we've beaten them because of 2-point conversions.
Right.
And so I think that, they're home. They've got the home field advantage. They just came off a great game. Of course, it's against the 2-win Giants, but like, they've got the confidence in the world. I think they've got all the momentum, all the energy, all the confidence in the world to be like, we're not losing to these guys again. Like, we're home. Let's go beat these guys. I think we're going to lose 21-16. And I think that like it's going to be close, but I think their defense is going to do a good job of keeping us out of the end zone. I think we're going to get in once this time. I think we'll get field goals, but I am worried for this offense too. Like the fact that we really weren't able to really like do anything. I mean, in the air, like, yeah, I mean, I guess
not much. Yeah, like not anything.
And so it's kind of scary going into next week where it's like, I feel like offensively it's kind of hit or miss. Where it's like if we do bad offensively, we could do bad again, or we could show up. Who knows? So I think that they're just gonna have a better day.
I think that the Ravens are going to win 24-21 for no other reason that the NFL needs a reason to have people keep watching. Yeah. And it's going to be a primetime game anyway. I don't think there's any other games on at that slate, right? There might be one.
It'll probably be a CBS game, but I don't know if it'll be a game.
But like, who else is, like, what else could, look it up. Look who else is playing. Because, like, who's got, like, if you had the choice between
the Bills,
if you had choice between Ravens, Steelers, and anything else, like, people are going to watch Ravens, Steelers. And if it's close, then people are going to keep watching. And if the Ravens win, then they're going to keep watching after that. So,
it's a Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. When they're not showing. Oh, here we go. Saturday. Yeah, we're the only game because it's going to be on
the only game on Saturday.
Saturday before us is Texans Chiefs. So that's interesting. I'm sure people will tune into that. Because I mean, and that could be huge. Like, say the Texans win and then we somehow beat the Ravens and then we beat the Chiefs. We've got a chance at the
1 seed.
The 1 seed. So that's a good game. Steelers, Ravens. So Saturday, there's 2 games that people, but also there's the college football playoffs.
Right.
So it's like,
you got to have people got to watch somehow.
Yeah. I would rather, like, besides the Steelers game, I'm going to be watching college football playoffs.
Sure.
Like, because it's so interesting and, there's a lot of cool games that can be on. But yeah, we are the only game. So everybody will be tuning into that if they're not watching
college.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the Ravens win close and for no other reason that, like, they need people to watch.
Yeah.
And they need people to keep watching for the last, 2 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
So that's the only backing I have, and that's the only thing I'm going to give. So that's what I'm going to say.
Well, I hope we're both wrong. But
hey, by the way, we are now tied in our predictions.
Hey, should I switch to a win?
You should.
Oh.
Ooh.
What is our record? Are we a losing record?
We have a losing record.
Okay.
I think we're almost 500.
Okay.
We're pretty close to 500.
Yeah.
I want to say, well, okay, what's our record now?
We're 10-4, so 14 games.
14 games. I think we're 6-9 or 6. What's that?
6-8.
6-8. I think we're both 6-8.
Okay, not horrible.
Not horrible, but like,
yeah,
not great.
Hey, man, and just looking back, it's gonna stink to look back at this year. Unless we win the Super Bowl, to look back at this year and be like, we lost to 3 teams that aren't even close to the playoffs. Like, it's like you got to beat the teams that aren't like lost to 1 team that doesn't make the playoffs. It's like, all right, that happens. You have an off week, but 3 games, it's like, man, that's costing us. We'd have the division locked up, and we'd be like right there, right in the thick of it for a 1 seed. It's just it's hard to like see those and then like because then it makes this loss, which is a good loss. It's not really a good loss.
It's not a good loss.
No, but it's against a good team. It makes this loss so much worse because you lost to 3 previous teams that have nothing going for them.
Right. And I was trying. Okay, here's the other thing. All this year, I've been trying to justify those bad losses.
Yeah.
The Browns loss, I won't justify because they were destined to win that game. Maybe I should. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. I kind of just lost my train of thought there. But the whole point is, like, I'm trying to like find these other really, really, really good teams that lose to really, really, really bad teams.
Yeah.
And I'm just not finding it. I wish I could. Yes, the Ravens lost to the Browns, but it's a division matchup. Okay, maybe that's my rationale for the division loss.
Yes.
But like those losses to the Colts, who are just like this middling team that's like 2 games under 500. The Cowboys, who are like a dumpster fire now. Sure, they had Dak back then, but like they're not much of a different team.
People knew that they still like when the Saints put up 50 against them, like
that's when exactly.
Yeah. And so and like you look at the other teams, the Lions have 2 great losses. The Chiefs have a good loss. Well, no, Chiefs have a great loss.
Right.
The Bills, I don't think have a bad loss. I don't know who they've lost to.
They lost to
the
Rams and Ravens.
Rams
isn't a bad loss because they're like
they're in the hunt.
They're a fine team.
Yeah, and like who's the other team? I'm honestly thinking the Packers. I feel like they haven't really lost to like a really bad team.
And if they did, it was probably like early on when they were dealing with injuries.
Yeah, and so you just don't see
that's the difference. That's that tier.
Yeah,
the
tier. Like The Vikings. This is coaching. Kevin O'Connell should win Coach of the Year. He won't, but he should, because Sam Darnold was thrown away by the league. He was like Woody in Toy Story, where it's like, we're done with you. Like, you have done nothing this entire time. And Kevin O'Connell was like, let me clean you up a little bit. And then he throws 300 yards and 5 touchdowns last week. And they're 11-2, for sure going to make the playoffs. They still have a chance in their division because of what just happened.
They're 11-2?
Yeah. He is a great coach. Last year, I think they had 8 wins with random quarterbacks. Who even knows their names? Nick Mullins, maybe, I don't know.
Right, yeah.
Like, and then, they obviously went to the playoffs the year before with Kirk Cousins. He's a great coach. And they're 11-2. And like, the thing is, like, yeah, they've had close games, but they don't lose to bad teams. And they're right in the thick of it with the good teams. That's like, can you win the games you're supposed to win?
Yeah.
We can't. We've never been able to with Tomlin. Like, it's just...
It's not that we can't, but it's just that we lose those games occasionally, but it's more occasionally than other teams do.
It's like other teams, it's like once a year or once every other year. Us, it's like twice
or 3 times sometimes.
Yeah, and it's like you just can't afford that if you want to be one of the best teams in the league.
And you can't do that if you want to lose to the Eagles this week.
Exactly.
If you want to have the justification on losing to the Eagles, then you better not lose to the Cowboys, who are like very obviously tanking right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's just, it's sad to see that, like, man, why can't we beat these bad teams? Like, we just continue every year, we lose like 2 bad teams. And it's every year either costs us a playoff spot, costs us the division, or, I mean, you look at like we talk about the 2020 year a lot. The 2020 year, how many of those last 4 losses in the regular season, I think at least 2 of them were against losing record teams. And it's just like, what do we...
Like that Bengals game. Who was the quarterback?
They had 2 wins. Was Boyle or like...
I don't even know.
And I'm going to look it up. But yeah, and then we lost the Commanders, who sure made the playoffs. But
they were like under 500.
Sorry, they were the football team.
Yeah, they were like under 500. They almost beat Brady that year, though. That was kind of cool.
That's true. That was a close game.
Imagine what would have happened if they would have won that game. Because then Brady doesn't win the Super Bowl.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. And, well, how about even the divisional game of that year? The Saints were up big, or up by like 14, and then they came back and won. And, yeah, it's hard to watch every year, see our hopes get dashed by these games that we should win. And like, it costs us all the important games down the road. Man, why can't I find... Here we go. Giovanni Bernard was still with them. And he apparently had a game.
Was he like their RB1 at that point?
I guess. He... oh, man. Why is this taking so long? 2020. I don't know why I want to figure this out so bad. But
it was some...
Yeah, and like that happens every year. It's like we lose to a guy that, like, who are you? Like, what even is your name? Like, we're trying to figure it out.
We don't even know who you are. Nobody knows who you are.
It was Ryan Finley, if you remember that name.
How many career games did he have? Like 4?
Yes, or something. Oh yeah, literally. Did
I get that right? Actually?
Let me look at his stats here. I think he's retired now.
Well,
oh no, he has 2 years in the NFL.
2 years in the NFL.
2 years in the NFL, and he has 3 total touchdowns.
Probably all 3 in that game.
One was against us. 2 was in 2019, which one of those is probably against us because he played that last game.
Oh.
So, and then 6 picks. So yeah, I mean, that's who we lose to?
Ryan Finley.
We lose to when we were 11-0. And like, I was just watching another thing where they were talking about this team that had collapsed. And they were like, oh, and the exclamation that like ruined their collapse was they lost to the JaMarcus Russell Raiders. And I was like, we lost to the JaMarcus Russell Raiders. Like, why are we the team that everyone laughs at? And it's like, how do you lose to these guys? Like, guys that win no other games than us.
Yeah. If you're listening to the sound of our voice now and you wonder why we talk so like passionately about coaching and Coach T, like, this is why. This is your history lesson. We've talked for well over an hour now. We've ranted, we've screamed, we've yelled at each other.
Oh my goodness.
This is your history lesson. This is why we are continuously having these conversations.
Because those games cost us all the big games, and those games ruin us every year. You look at the year after we won the Super Bowl, we were 6-2, ended up losing 5 straight. But then we go on and we beat the Packers, who were great that year. That win doesn't matter because we lost to like a 2-win Chiefs team and JaMarcus Russell that year. And like, you go back to our Super Bowl year and the other Super Bowl year, we had 4 losses, all of them to teams with winning records.
Okay.
And that's the difference. That's the difference. Those 2 years we go to the Super Bowl is we don't drop a crap game. We don't drop like a game. We drop a game like just the Super Bowl 43 win. We lose to the Eagles, who were in the NFC Championship. We lose to the Titans, who were the number 1 seed in the AFC, and the Ravens beat. We lose to, oh man, who else did we lose to? I know we beat the Cowboys.
What year are you talking about?
2008. Wait a minute. I know this. I've watched this so much. We lose to the Colts, who actually ended up going, or no. They had a good record that year, but they had like 11 wins, and they were in the playoffs. And so like that's Peyton Manning and Tony Dungy.
Right.
I think Tony Dungy was still there. So that's like 3 losses that are great losses. And there's a 4th that is eluding me that like is still a good team.
Yeah.
And I'm not actually entirely sure who we lost to in 2010. But I know that like, I'm like highly certain.
Here, while you're looking that up, I heard this stat. I don't know if I'm completely quoting this correctly, but it was that no team has ever lost to the Cleveland Browns and won the Super Bowl.
Really?
It's like if you lose to a poverty franchise like the Cleveland Browns, you will not make it to the promised land. And that's almost just like this thorn in your side to say you will never win the Super Bowl if you lose to a poverty team like the Browns.
Yeah.
So like that idea, that philosophy carries through. Yeah. If you lose to bad teams, you're not going to win at all.
Right. Absolutely. It's just the truth. And so the other team was the Giants, who went 12-4.
There you go.
4. So all those teams, I don't remember how many wins the Eagles had, but they were in the NFC Championship game, so they won 2 playoff games, or at least 1. So like all those had over 11 wins. Those are all great losses.
Yeah. And that was the era when 11 wins was a big deal.
Yeah.
It wasn't the era when it was like you had to win 14 games to win your division. That was when 10, 11 wins meant a lot.
Absolutely. And like still like we had 12 wins that year, but like we still felt like the cream of the crop. Now it's like you have 12 wins and you're like, are we good?
Yeah.
It's like, how does that, like 12 wins used to be, you were the 1 seed.
Right. That's what that extra game does.
Yeah, it's true. And so it's just, it's ever since that year, we've always just lost to like a bad team or two. And
you'll never win. You'll never win at all if you lose to bad teams like that.
No. And it happened in another case in point, which is like this is the smallest margin here. In 2017, we went 13-3. And when Jesse James caught the football, but they called it incomplete, and we lost to the Patriots. We went 13-3. We were the number 2 seed. The Patriots were 14-2. We lost to the Jaguars that year, and we obviously lost them in the playoffs. So like that's a good loss because they were a good team. We lost to they maybe had 4 wins, the Bears in overtime.
Yeah.
We win that game.
I remember that game.
We win that game. We probably still had the 1 seed. We were like, and that changes everything because then we play the Titans, who we whooped in the regular season, and then we play the Patriots at home, who we proved we could beat that year. And then the Eagles. But I'm like that.
And instead, they ran into the gauntlet of Blake Bortles, who just was on something.
Yes.
He was on crack that year.
Yes, and that's like the year after we were 7-2-1. We lost to the Chargers, who were good. We lose to the 3-win Raiders, and then a losing record Broncos that basically knocks us out of the playoffs. Like one more game knocked us out, and it's like you win those games, you're one of the best teams in the AFC.
And people will regard you as such.
Yes.
Nobody has given us respect this season because they look back and they're like, oh, well, they lost to a bad Cowboys team. They lost to a bad Browns team.
The Giants, they were close for a while. The Ravens put those guys away.
Yep.
They never stood a chance.
Right.
The first half and some of the second half against the Giants, it was close. Same with the Jets. Like are we just not that good? Like
I don't know. We might not be.
We give everybody these opportunities where it's like, man, like we just, yeah, sure, we put them away.
When I was walking out of the Browns stadium today, like I walked out when it was 21-0. And in my heart of hearts, I was like, I really hope the Browns win this game so that the Chiefs can be exposed as frauds. But they didn't.
They didn't.
And they won't. They never will. The Browns will never beat the Chiefs when the Browns are 3-10 and the Chiefs are whatever with the power of black magic on their side.
Right.
That will never happen. And when I was walking out of the stadium, I took my glove off and I'm like, I'm going to sacrifice, some warmth in my body so that I can check my phone and see what the scores to the other 1 o'clock slate games are. And sure enough, there wasn't a single game in that entire 1 o'clock slate that I was surprised to see the score. That Ravens game being one of them, and then that other just absolute mess of a 1 o'clock slate that was today.
Yeah.
Not a single game on that slate. I was like, wow, I'm shocked. Even the Titans-Bengals game as well.
Yeah.
That game was, everything happened exactly how I thought, and that's just the thing.
No.
Those teams take care of business.
It is, and that's the problem. And that's something that's why I'll never excuse us losing to the Browns. The Ravens is another story because it's the Ravens. But the Browns, it's like the Chiefs never lose to the Raiders. The Patriots never lost to the Jets, or even like the Bills. Like the Dolphins were kind of their kryptonite. But like those teams that like the Patriots who had like a 20-year
tier 1 team.
Yes, the best teams in the league, like the NFC teams that are I can't think of any right now that are the best in the league, like that had a long era, but they just don't.
Like the Eagles and the Giants.
Yes,
the Eagles would never lose to the Giants.
No, it's like that doesn't happen. It's like Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes. These teams don't lose to those guys in their division. They don't lose to these bad teams. They lose to someone else who's going to win the Super Bowl, and it's just like we can't do that. And we lose to the Browns who are
just this pile of mess.
And like it's like our standard. The standard is the standard. Your standard is super low. You're fine and content with the Browns' loss. I don't understand. I mean, that Bill Cowher would have been like fired. Like it's just that's like you don't lose to the Browns. You don't. And that's the thing that these other teams understand is like you don't lose.
You kick them to the curb. You kick them aside.
Yeah, and then, you know what the thing is? You know what made like, and this is just came to me, and who knows if this is actually true or not. But when you care about those games as much as you care about the big games, when you care about those little games, you're so good to win those that you're even so much more prepared for when you play the playoff teams. That you're so much more locked in. You're so much more confident in yourself. Versus you come in and you're like, well, we should win. We'll just do what we do. It's like no, you prepare, and so then when you play the good teams, you're like, yeah, we can beat them. Like we can beat. We know who we are. It's sad that after how long? 18 years of coaching, he hasn't been able to do it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's our rant.
Well, that was a long rant. I think this is the longest episode by far.
So I think I saw like it was like an hour, probably like 20 minutes ago. So
what's our time right now? Yeah, an hour 25.
Yeah.
Look at us.
Crazy.
We could probably keep going, I'm sure.
I think we for sure could.
I might not make it home tonight.
Yeah.
We just might keep talking.
I could go deep into the Steelers lore of these past 20 years.
Well, you do a good job of it. Like your Steelers history memory is like astounding to me.
Oh.
It's probably close to like it's probably like my Pirates history memory.
Yeah.
My Pirates history memory is really good.
Yeah.
Your Steelers history memory is probably better.
Yeah, we balance out each other pretty well.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Well, this was an absolute joy of a Boardman Black and Gold podcast episode.
Silver lining to the loss is this podcast.
Yes, I'm glad that we got to do this, and it probably is like better that we lost this week because of the situation that we're in, that we could actually be in person together and actually have conversations like normal people.
Right.
So hey, and this just shows if we ever get any bigger and we can do this like weekly where we're together.
Yeah.
Hey, look out because we're going to the moon.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and viewership is up thanks to. What country was it?
Sweden.
Yeah, thanks to Sweden. Viewership is going up, baby.
No, Finland. I got that wrong. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
You're sorry.
Oh, man. Oh, it's been great.
Yeah.
And this was fun. I'm appreciative of your family opening up the house to me and just letting me come crash after a abysmal Browns game that I attended for about, an hour and a half or so.
Yeah. We're glad that there was at least food and company for the loss.
Yes. It would have been a lot more sad if I was by myself watching.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, 100%. Well, this was the Boardman Black and Gold podcast. If you made it through, hey, give us a 5-star rating because we've been talking for a while. I've kind of lost my voice a little bit. So, hey, leave us a 5-star rating on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And you can also text us. There's a way that you can send a text through something, or there is a way that you can comment on, I know, Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So if you like what you hear, this episode, any other episode, leave a comment, let us know what you think. Follow the Instagram at Boardman and Gold so you can get some updates on kind of what we're going through on the podcast. I kind of documented a little bit of my little Browns excursion today, and then we got a picture of the two of us up on the Instagram now. So make sure you follow the Instagram at Boardman and Gold, and then tell a friend. If you have a Steelers fan that you know, even if you're not super close with, just say, hey, I got these two guys. They love talking about Steelers football, and hey, maybe they're decent at it. And if you like listening to us, then hey, share the podcast. And if those outside perspective episodes, if you have friends that are fans of those teams that we interview, let them, let them hear it. Cause we don't just talk about the Steelers. We try to get a little bit more of a holistic view of the NFL. David's excellent at that. Your NFL memory is just incredible to me.
I love to consume. I watch all the NFL throwback videos. I'm always oh, this is, I love learn more about the history.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely we do this because we love it and for no other reason. So if you guys love the Steelers or just love sports, it's, we do it for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're very thankful for our sponsor, Zeka Enterprises, who is crafting furniture solutions in Northwestern Pennsylvania. You can call 910-777-3871 to learn how they can turn your furniture problems into furniture solutions. Big episode this week. We've got the Ravens coming up on Saturday, and we will be back over FaceTime, unfortunately, but hey, we get it done. We'll figure it out. We do it every week. Again, like David said, for our own enjoyment and for you all's enjoyment too. So as always, thanks for listening. And David, again, it's been great. And I'm looking forward to the next time we can do this type of format again.
Yes, absolutely. Hopefully it won't be too long. Who knows? If we win the division, we get a home playoff game, I would be looking to come back. So
yes, and I will be here. And hey, maybe if you are listening to us now and you would like to sponsor the two of us going to a playoff game,
there we go.
And we'll put your name on it. We'll do everything.
Yeah. Like we'll take pictures.
We'll take pictures. Everything. If you would like to sponsor the two of us going to a playoff game, that would be excellent.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, anyways, thanks for listening to the Board and Black and Gold podcast. This is Zane and David. We'll be back next week to break down the Ravens game. Hopefully it's after a Here We Go Steelers win. And as always, thanks for listening and have a great day.